They say some wars are fought with bullets and some with paperwork, but nobody tells you about the ones that start with a drone over your pine trees. My name's Charlie McGraw, 43 ex-Ranger, and a man who thought he'd left all the noise and nonsense behind when he traded Fresno for a patch of rough land up in the Sierra Nevadas. Funny how peace can fool you. I still remember the first day's cabin tilting a little porch groaning like an old man's knees stove that hadn't seen action since the Reagan years. Didn't bother me. That was real honest work. Every hour I spent cutting dead branches, rewiring solar, fixing up the old well, felt like scraping city life right out of my bones. Banjo, my German shepherd, ran wild through the woods, barking at chipmunks like they owed him back taxes. Nights came quiet, no sirens, no neighbors, just a cold beer and the wind working the pines. Thought I'd finally made it to where the world couldn't reach me. Should have known better. Things started small, a drone buzzing overhead low and lazy. Banjo hated that thing. I figured maybe a hiker, maybe a kid. Next day it hovered so close it cast a shadow over my porch. Then the flags arrived, orange triangles sticking up out of my access road like warning teeth curving up toward my mailbox. Felt like someone else was planting their name on my land. I pulled up every last one and dumped them in the shed. But that wasn't the end. Men in khakis parked near the edge, snapping photos with long lenses. Couples in matching jackets, whispering and pointing at my generator. Strangers treating my property like an exhibit no one ever waved. Not curiosity surveillance. The last straw was the manila envelope taped to my gate Summit Pines HOA, staring at me in blue font as smug as a fox in a henhouse. Inside, some legalese about ecological oversight and a voluntary inspection. A date already picked. Said to call President Karen Shaw with questions. Instead, I wrote back hard facts, property codes, deed copies, notarized proof. I was never in their HOA, never would be. Sent copies everywhere it mattered. I wanted them to know this isn't just paperwork, this is my home. But when someone leaves a letter taped to your gate, they aren't asking, they're warning. Next morning, coffee in hand, I watched the woods. Banjo prowled the yard. I called in Benji, old friend grudge against red tape, showed up with a GPS rod and a battered truck that smelled like spilled whiskey. Together we walked every inch of my property, marking every flag, every fake boundary. Turns out those flags were 4 feet inside my real border, no accident. A straight-up land grab. We documented everything. Photos, GPS logs, timestamps. Enough evidence to rattle a judge's desk. Benji wished me luck, told me to keep the Mossberg ready, and vanished down the road. That evening, the next drone came sleeker with a strobing red beacon hovering right outside my window. Banjo lost his mind. I stepped out, shotgun in one hand, tactical flashlight in the other, and lit that plastic bird up so bright it nearly crashed. It zipped off into the trees. By sunrise, a new envelope, this one less friendly, scheduling a mandatory inspection, not a request. I called the number. Woman's voice crisp as frostbite. Summit Pines Association. I told her my name. She replied, President Shaw has authorized inspection under HOA policy expansion. I said, I'm not part of your HOA. She said, we're in discussions with the county. I warned her. Set foot on my land and it's trespassing. She tried to warn me back not to appear combative. I told her, you want combative, bring a priest. Then started prepping letters to the HOA sheriff and my cousin, a lawyer down in Sacramento. Tuesday morning, the air so still it rang in my ears. Banjo prowled, nose twitching. I sharpened my axe just to keep my hands busy. At 8:40, tires crunched on gravel. Summit Pines HOA rolled up gray SUV, private security, and black shirts, Karen herself out front, lips drawn tight, eyes hard. Behind her environmental officer badge, flashing guards scowling. Karen tried her official voice. We're here for the inspection. I stayed leaning in my doorframe. Mossberg across my chest. Not aimed. Just present. I sent you refusals. You're trespassing. She sighed. Said they'd notified the county claimed hazards to the community. I said, there is no community, just me and the dog. That's when things snapped. Guard poked around my shed, Banjo barking up a storm. I stepped off the porch, clipboard froze, security guard tensed, Karen's eyes widened. You've got 3 seconds to leave. 1. Guard backed up, nearly tripped. 2. Karen raised her hands, voice trembling. 3. They broke. Officer dropped his tablet. Everyone scrambled, car peeling out so fast it kicked gravel all over my tulips. I stood there, boots planted, banjo barking the king of my own dirt. Picked up the tablet, still recording, and poured myself more coffee. Not an hour later, Karen called shrill, threatening to report me to the authorities for threatening with a deadly weapon. I told her exactly what happened. Then I called the sheriff myself. They came 2 patrol cars, one marked, one not. Deputy Harris and Sergeant Kwan. I handed them everything: footage, paperwork, boundary maps. Kwan watched the tape, nodded, said I was within my rights. Harris said the HOA was asking for a civil suit more than anything else. They told me to add more signs and left. Thought maybe I'd earned some quiet. 2 days later, the HOA fired back formal legal action accusations of brandishing unlawful seizure of their gadgets, claims of trauma. Hand-delivered letters went out to my neighbors, warning them of the armed man next door. Someone started a Facebook group. I became a talking point for folks who'd never met me. That Friday, county code enforcement showed up, yellow vest, confused face, following up on anonymous complaints. I let him inspect everything. Passed with flying colors. He admitted couldn't officially say, but it smelled like HOA pushiness. That's when I knew it wasn't over. It was escalating. Time to fight back. Hired Dina Romero, property rights attorney, mean as a rattlesnake with a headache. She drafted a countersuit, civil trespass, harassment, defamation. We filed a formal county complaint about HOA overreach. Then we leaked it. Local press ate it up. Mountain versus HOA, the battle for Sierra land. Suddenly my inbox filled up with stories from people all over, support rolling in, even a state rep wanting me to testify about HOA abuse. But the HOA doubled down. New survey flags appeared, this time from a shell company. Dina called it HOA colonialism. I went to the assessor's office, dumped everything on Mel's desk, old guy stapler for a handshake. He checked, found a reassessment inquiry, not from the county, but from the fake HOA liaison. He flagged it. Within 2 days, I got an official letter. My land is autonomous, unaffected by the HOA. We published that too. Another headline. Karen filed a thicker lawsuit accusing me of property theft, public defamation, endangerment. Dina rolled her eyes but took it seriously. Security went up, lights, cameras, more signs. Still the harassment continued. Mailbox smashed, banjo hit with dog repellent. Then neighbor called white SUV at 2:30 a.m. Figures snooping around my generator. I had them on tape, license, everything. Handed it to Deputy Kwan. You might want to stay sharp, Mr. McGraw. HOA is playing with fire. A week later, new letter, county. This time not HOA. Mandatory compliance inspection, real department header, but the language reeked of HOA fingerprints. Dina sought a backdoor move, obscure clause triggered by Karen's credible report. I didn't wait. 3 different inspectors, clean reports across the board. Sent them to every one county sheriff, even HOA. 3 days later, compliance team rolled in, real county truck. But Karen tagged along, eyes blazing. I met them with a GoPro rolling and 3 audit reports. County inspector checked everything, recognized my old ranger buddy's signature, called the property clean. Karen turned red, threatened more, but was told to step back. The inspector laughed, said I should run for office, only if I get to chair with a 12-gauge. Finally got a real laugh. Karen's last move, a full-blown lawsuit for emotional assault, property theft, and demanding a forced easement through my land. Dina grinned. Now we bury them. In court, HOA's lawyers painted me as a militant loner. Edited drone footage, scary quotes, all of it. Dina played the full tapes, Karen trying to force the shed sheriff's apology, 3 clean environmental audits, a county memo exposing HOA's false filings. The judge wasn't having it. Dismissed every claim, granted our countersuit $240,000 restraining order, HOA audit, and a note in county records, my land off limits to HOA forever. Karen lost her job. The new board sent me a certified apology. I framed it. Banjo and I walked the land, no drones, no flags, just the wind and the pines. I hung a new sign at the drive, private property. No trespassing, HOA free zone. Underneath, smile, you're on camera. And yes, it's still loaded. What did I learn? The worst fights are the quiet ones, fought with paperwork and patience. Power's favorite game is pushing boundaries and pretending it's for the greater good. But sometimes justice is just standing your ground over and over until the other side gives up or runs out of money. That's what holding the line looks like. So tell me, where do you draw the line? When does standing up for what's yours go too far? Was I right or did I cross it? Drop your take in the comments. If you've ever battled an HOA or had to fight for your land, I want to hear your story. Let's see where justice really lives out here on the boundary boots in the dirt, where it actually matters.